Hi guys, it's Luke here of SimBoxx. Back today with our Zoom interview, and I'm delighted to be joined by trainer, former boxer, manager, matchmaker, extraordinaire, Carl Greaves. How are you doing, Carl?
I'm doing okay, Luke. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. First and foremost, I know it's a very busy time for yourself as we roll into February and the return of boxing. So I appreciate you giving us some of your time today.
No worries, mate.
So fingers crossed, let's get straight into it. The big fight that everyone's talking about at the minute comes up February 20th. David Avanesyan defending his European title against Josh Kelly. 3 or 4 times this fight has been scheduled now, and I'm sure you're sick to the bass teeth of answering questions about it. But give us your thoughts, Carl. The fight finally goes down February 20th.
Yeah, finally. I mean, obviously, 2 years ago it should have happened, December 2018. Obviously, Kelly pulled out on the day. He had his reasons. We move on now. It's been rescheduled three times now. This is the fourth time. So, fourth time lucky it's going to finally happen, February the 20th.
Absolutely. So one thing that I'm really intrigued about, and one thing that I was hoping you could enlighten us on today, is where did the partnership with David Avanesyan come from? Of course, he's from Russia. He's based in the UK now. Where did that all come around? I know he's managed by Neil Marsh. Can you just take us through that whole process of how it came to be that you're training David Avanesyan?
Yeah, when Neil got hold of David, obviously he was introduced to him by a Russian guy. So got hold of David. He first put him on a show in Blackpool, a joint show with me and Neil. He put him on a show there. He was training at the time with the Everton Red Triangle guys down there. He had his first fight with Neil against Dean Byrne. Boxed very well, won in 6 rounds. And then Neil wanted a little change, so he took him around to a few trainers. I've known Neil a long time. 2008, we was doing things together, putting joint shows on a long time ago. So I've known Neil a long time. And then, he took me around a few gyms, see which trainer David wanted to work with best, and brought him to me, and he chose me, which was good. So yeah, I was thankful to Neil for giving me the opportunity to train David, and such a great fighter.
Absolutely. So, of course, the standout name on Avanesyan's record at the minute was the great Sugar Shane Mosley. Was you in the corner for that fight?
Yeah, my first fight with David was, I think it was November 2015 against Charlie Navarro for the WBA interim world title. So he won that fight, stopped Charlie, I think it was in 9 rounds. And then Neil got him a shot at Sugar Shane Mosley defending his interim world title. So, like I say, we've had a fantastic journey. We went to Arizona and fought Mosley on his own show, own promotion. And David did a great job with him, won a unanimous decision. And then he became manager for the WBA regular world title, which was held at the time by Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman looked at David and perhaps thought he won a big enough name. He vacated his title. David got upgraded to world champion. So, and his defence was against, well, his defence really, because he was the champion, was against Lamont Peterson, a great fighter. So, yeah, that was in Cincinnati in America, and he lost to Peterson. He had another great crack. I think it was another shot, another title against Kavalauskas, another world-class fighter. David got beat in that. I think in between that he had a win. So we've had a fantastic journey, and then obviously we was due to fight Kelly December 2018. That fell through. Kelly pulled out on the day, as I said before. And then Neil worked his magic and got him a crack at the European welterweight title. I think it was February 2019 against Kerman Lajaraga, a formidable champion. I think he was like 24-0, 21 knockouts. He beat the likes of Bradley Skeet, Denton Vassell, Frankie Gavin, Tyrone Nurse since David he's gone on to beat. So great champion, fantastic win that was to put him back in the mix.
Absolutely, and that's one of the fights that I wanted to touch on, the picking up the European title against Kerman Lajaraga, like you say. The first fight, maybe in the eyes of some, would have been considered an upset, because like you say, Lajaraga was beating some good names, some solid opposition. But then to go in there in the immediate rematch and knock him out in the first round was some statement from David Avanesyan, and I'm sure that's something you're proud of. But did you fully expect, or did you know that Avanesyan had it in him to be as explosive as he was? The run of knockout victories that he's on now, including the defense against Jose Del Rio. He's on a real wave of momentum. Is that something that you always knew was inside of him? That kind of power, ferocity, and aggression.
Yeah, well, he had a bad time when he boxed Peterson and Cavalaus because he wasn't on form. I mean, listen, they're world-class fighters. There's no disgrace in losing to that sort of caliber. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't the David that we knew. I don't think he was there mentally. He had a few issues going on back home. So, yeah, he had a few personal problems, but he wasn't there mentally for them fights. And I knew that there wasn't the David that I knew that could be a better fighter than that. So he went away, had a good hard look at himself, had a good think, and he said to me, "Look, Carl," he said, "I'll be back. Don't you worry, I'll be back." And then obviously his first fight would have been against Josh Kelly. That fell through, and then all of a sudden Neil got him a shot at a voluntary against Kerman for the European title, and he went on that fantastic run. And I think he showed people that he's still a work in progress, even though he's 32, he's a young 32. He lives a clean life. Never drinks, never takes drugs, don't smoke. So I went on that fantastic run, like you say, and obviously the COVID's jeopardised him keeping that momentum going. But he's had 2 or 3 camps in preparation for this fight, so he's been training. You know what I mean? He's not been laying about. He's been working very hard and getting good sparring, and finally, let's hope this fight happens.
Most definitely. I think, you speak for the boxing world there. And there's so many layers to this fight and this rivalry, and we'll try and peel them back in order. So let's go back to 2018. And one thing that I find very fascinating is maybe back then in December 2018 on the Kelbrook undercard, there was not much known outside of the hardcore boxing fans about David Avanesyan. He had the win against Mosley and the fights against Lamont Peterson. But you kind of casual fan, if you like, he was still somewhat of an unknown quantity. And you could argue that Josh Kelly was certainly a betting favourite going into that fight. And the way the tables have turned now, and Josh Kelly didn't have too good of a 2019 drawing against Ray Robinson and picking up a unanimous 10-round decision after that. And then you look at the run, as we've said, that David Avanesyan went on. It's almost like it's become, if not a 50-50 fight, almost like a 60-40 in favour of Avanesyan. And I think that's one of many aspects that the delay in the fight happening has certainly brought about with this fight, is that it's almost like the tables have turned.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing now the odds have changed at the bookies. I mean, he's become favourite, as you said. I mean, a close favourite, but yeah, he's become favourite. So obviously, like you said, the run David put together in 2019 compared to the form that Kelly's been on, what I mean? It's rightly so. He should be favourite. I mean, Kerman was a formidable champion. A lot of people was picking him to go on to pick up a world title. And obviously the Del Rio one was a bit of a routine defence, but he was a tough kid, you know what I mean? And for David to blow him away in one round was a good statement. But Kelly's last fight against Winston Campos, I mean, I've watched it numerous times, and if he performs anywhere near that level against David, he's in a heap of trouble, let me tell you, because me and David sat here and watched it. Well, actually, he watched it. It was on my bike watching the fight, and doing a bit of work on my treadmill in this room here, and we had it on the telly, and he went, "If Kelly fights like this against me, he's in a lot of trouble," which is rightly so. So let's see. But I mean, Winston Campos was blown up like welterweight. Josh Taylor blew him out, got him out of there in 2 rounds, and Kelly struggled over 10 with him. I mean, I watched that fight closely, and I mean, I've listened to the commentary. It's a little bit one-sided because Winston Campos had his moments in that fight. He was catching Josh and being able to push him back as well. So very interesting. So it gave us a lot of confidence. But listen, you can't just go off that. I mean, before that, he was flying high. I mean, he's a rising star in Matchroom. He's got a lot going for him, and he has got a lot of pedigree from the amateurs, former Olympian. And Matchroom's got high hopes for him, but this is a bit of a crossroads fight, really, and that's why it's got a lot of people talking. It's a very interesting fight because if Kelly can beat David, he can go on to do good things. But if David beats Kelly, we need to push on then and try and get another world title.
Absolutely. See, kind of goes hand in hand with what you just said there in terms of the momentum that Avanesyan had behind him, and the fact that Josh Kelly didn't look maybe as good as he had done earlier on. Do you believe the delay in the fight happening? It's been way too long since we felt like this fight should have happened. Do you feel like the delay would favour one guy over the other? We know Josh Kelly's a little bit younger than Avanesyan, and Avanesyan was riding that wave of momentum, and Kelly now has had time to improve. I'm sure Avanesyan's improved in the gym as well. Do you feel like anybody has benefited more than the other with the delay, or do you feel like they're both equally affected?
I think it's going to suit David more. The reason being is I know David lives the life. He's always training. He's always in the gym. I've never seen him more than a stone overweight ever. So that's, that's a top professional fighter for me, a man that lives and breathes the game. I mean, I know Josh Kelly, listen, he's very good. I'm not taking enough away from him, but I don't think he lives the life out the gym. Outside of boxing, I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad liver, but I know he puts on a hell of a lot of weight, and that is a bad thing. I mean, I saw pictures of him a few months ago, and he looked very, very heavy. And this fight should have really happened on the Joshua undercard. That would have been the ideal time. Yeah. But Kelly wasn't ready. I mean, I was getting sent pictures of him, and he looked massive. So. Yeah, I mean, he's having to take a lot of weight off, whereas I know David's going to be fit, strong welterweight. He's filled into a good welterweight now. And I just think Kelly struggles at the weight. And that's why he don't look great late on in fights.
Do you look at that, and think that if Kelly's ballooning up in weight, and you say that you've seen pictures and things like that, do you see that as maybe a sign of disrespect? Do you think that he's kind of looking down on Avanesyan? He's not taking the challenge seriously, maybe? What do you take from the fact that he's not living the life, as you say, away from the gym?
Well, I think when the fight fell through in March, I just think that he thought the fight was never going to happen. So I just think he went away and distanced himself away from boxing. I think he was very down after that pull-out. I heard he was looking very good, Josh, in the gym. And he was chomping at the bit to fight David in March. So just like David was, to be honest. So it was a shame that fight never happened then. And Josh perhaps went away and was a bit down about it and just put a load of weight on. I wouldn't thought he was disrespecting David. I just think he was just that down about it and went away and just forgot about boxing for a few months. I think he had a little baby in between as well. So he perhaps just forgot about boxing and neglected his body a bit and just ate a load of rubbish and put a load of weight on. And then obviously Neil Marsh got on Twitter and gave Adam Booth and Kelly a bit of stick and says, "Come on, we're getting this fight on or what?" And then all of a sudden Kelly responds by saying, "I've had a meeting with Eddie and Adam, the fight's on, let's get it on. I'm not avoiding him, I want the fight." So that's what happened. And we thought the fight was going to happen last year, the end of last year, but obviously it hasn't, and it was meant to happen January the 30th, and now it's February the 20th. It's the never-ending fight.
That's it. Was there ever any consideration or thought that David might walk away from this fight, given that the way it fell apart way back in 2018 and multiple times since then? It's quite unique in the fact that both guys, it seems, and both camps, it seems, have been adamant that this fight's going to happen. You look at the likes of Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois, and that fight was falling apart a couple of times because of the pandemic. And in the meantime, they both went and had interim fights. Of course, Avanesyan had fights in between, and Josh Kelly's had fights in between 2018 and now. But was there ever any time that you thought, or David thought, or Neil thought, let's walk away from this? It's not happening. It's destined to fail. Was there ever any consideration of that?
Yeah, I think the man who's always wanted this fight is Eddie Hearn. Eddie wants his fight. You know what I mean? He knows it's going to be a great fight, and I think he wants to put Kelly in this type of fight to see if he really is as good as what he thinks he is. So I always thought the fight was going to happen, but there was a time where when it was falling apart that Eddie and Matchroom come on to us and said, "Look, if this fight don't happen, you can fight Yulusinoff, I think his name is, the Olympic champion who actually beat Josh Kelly." So there was talk that was going to be fighting him. I think it would have been, was it November the 27th or something like that? So David was starting to get ready for him. And then obviously they come back and said, no, Josh is going to take the fight. So that's when we was going to get ready. But obviously we thought it was going to happen before January, but it wasn't. It was set for January.
All right, okay. And, also along the lines of the delay, the bad blood that's there as well, that's kind of festered. There's a little bit of animosity in between the two camps. And we, of course, had Neil Marsh's antics at the press conference, which was certainly entertaining. But it's all led for this fight to elevate from undercard status. Of course, it was very first going to be the undercard of Kell Brook against Michael Zarafa, and now it's a bona fide main event. It's a Sky Sports Saturday night fight night main event, and that just goes to show that the fight is wanted by the fans. It's grown in notoriety, and it's become a main event fight rather than tucked away on somebody's undercard.
Yeah, it's become a massive fight. I mean, far bigger than what it was going to be in 2018. It's generated into a very big fight. I mean, you got to remember that Dave's gone on and won the European title, so that's made it a lot bigger fight as well. And it's really a world title eliminator because Dave is ranked high across the board. I think Josh is high up in a couple of ratings as well, so a couple of the rankings as well. So it is really a world title eliminator. You know what I mean? I'm surprised that it's not been pushed on for that. But I mean, you got to remember Josh has only had 10, 11 fights. It's a high risk fight for him at this stage of his career, but they obviously think he's good enough. And let's see. I mean, this is the fight that everybody wants to see. Is Josh as good as what the saying is, or he thinks he is? So this is the fight that is going to try and propel him. But I don't think he's going to beat David. I really don't. I mean, David's looking fantastic in the gym. I've never seen him look so good hand on heart. I know we always say it, but he's looked very, very good in this training camp. He had that little break when the fight got postponed. He went to Dubai for 3 nights just to relax, and then he went back home to Russia because the flight was a crossover. He had a few days out of the gym, and he's come back and he's firing. He's very, very determined, and he wants to win this fight, secure his family's future, and move on and try and get another world title fight.
Fantastic. When you look at the domestic welterweight division in the UK with the likes of Josh Kelly and Conor Ben, Chris Congo, and others, and then you've got the international fighters like David Avanesyan, and you've got Florian Marku there or thereabouts. It's really bustling into quite an entertaining division with a lot of fights being rumoured and speculated about. There's, of course, a lot of talk about Josh Kelly fighting Conor Ben. Again, do you look at that as maybe the boxing fans and the boxing, maybe Twitter world is overlooking Avanesyan for Josh Kelly because they're looking at the Conor Ben fight? Do you think there's any part of Josh Kelly that's looking beyond David Avanesyan and February 20th and looking towards fights with the likes of Conor Ben, amongst others?
It's a very interesting one, that, because I don't think for 1 minute that Josh is overlooking David. And from what I'm hearing, I think Conor fancies David to win the fight. So Conor's perhaps thinking if Kelly loses today to David, then it's still a fight there. I mean, it's still a massive fight, Josh Kelly and Conor Ben, if Josh loses to David. But I really think that the fight that would be very, very good and explosive with the styles would be Conor and David. I mean, I do think that David's a little bit above him at the moment. But listen, Conor likes a fight. Big respect to him, mate. He's a big name, obviously, off the back of his dad. And he's doing very, very well now. He's one of the most improved fighters I've seen. I mean, listen, I respect him. He's a good fighter. He's come a long way from his professional debut. He looked terrible. But he's come on very, very well, and he's looking good. And David and Conor Ben, what a fight that would be for the European title defence. But I do really believe that David's above that level if he beats Kelly. And he does deserve a shot at least a final eliminator for a world title. But we're not going to knock back Conor Ben and David Avanesyan. That's a fantastic fight.
No, that certainly is a great fight, Carl. And if I was to put you on the spot and, we speculate about a potential Josh Kelly and Conor Ben fight, win, lose or draw February 20th for Josh Kelly. If that fight was to happen at some point this year, Josh Kelly and Conor Ben, who do you favour in that fight?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, the same again, like Josh has got all the skills, all the amateur pedigree, but Conor's a strong guy. He can punch a bit and he likes to fight, and it just depends if he can get Kelly where he wants him to be. I mean, Kelly's got the style to met the likes of Conor and David look quite bad, you know what I mean, with his footwork and his movement. But listen, 12 rounds is a long time, and I've seen it time and time again. Keeping aggressive fighters off who want to get you in that pocket and have a fight, it's very, very tough, you know what I mean? You've got to be super fit and making the weight good without killing yourself to make the weight. You've got to be fit and strong to be able to keep someone off for 12 rounds. So it's an interesting one. I mean, you'd probably favour Josh because of his pedigree over Conor. I mean, Conor never had many amateur fights. He's a bit of a novice, really, but he is doing very, very well as a professional. But whereas David has got that amateur pedigree as well, he had over 100 fights, so he's got skills there, and he's a lot more pedigree than what Conor has. But that'd be a great fight, Conor and Josh. But I would favour Josh to beat Conor, to be honest.
Yeah, it's interesting, and we look forward to that one. Of course, you know, these the two boxers in the ring as well, but there's a lot to be said about the fact that it's going to be Carl Greaves' game plan against Adam Booth's game plan, two highly regarded, highly respected trainers in your own right. You know, all due respect to both you and Adam Booth. How excited are you to pit your skills and your game plan against somebody like Adam Booth, as experienced as he is?
Yeah, listen, it's great, that aspect of it. But the bottom line is, it's all about the fighters, you know what I mean? You can tell them all about what to do and the game plan and everything. It's obviously the fighters going out and executing it. But I'm one of these believers that a trainer's only as good as the tools he's got to work with. You've got to know what you're doing as a trainer. You've got to know when to do things at the right time. You've got to say the right things in the corner. But you can only be as good as the tools you've got to work with. And Adam's been very, very fortunate. He's been given a lot of good fighters over the years, which has made him a standout trainer. I've only really been given one good fighter. I mean, I've had champions across the board. I mean, Sam Bowen I brought through from the bottom to British champion and intercontinental champion. There's been a lot more as well. But I've only really been given one top high quality fighter. It's David Avanesyan, and look at the job I'm doing with him. So, you know what I mean? You give me all these great fighters, you know what I mean? I'd be up there with the best of the trainers without blowing my own trumpet, you know what I mean? But you, like I said before, you're only as good as the tools you've got to work with. You've got to have good fighters around you, you know what I mean, to make it work.
Yeah, so finally, just to close off, you know, the chat about Avanesyan and Kelly, I'm going to put you on the spot, Carl. You know, I'd like to think that I know what you're going to say, but can I get a prediction for Feb 20th, how you see the fight going?
I really believe that David can stop Josh Kelly. I do really believe it. The way he's looking at the moment, I'm very, very confident. You know what I mean? I'm way more confident this time than I probably was in 2018, to be honest. I am. David's a very, very hungry fighter. He seems a different character as well since he's had his little girl. He's got a baby, so he seems a different character now, and he's really, really wanting to win this fight. And obviously, what Kelly did to him in 2018 didn't go down very well. Yeah. He's an angry man, and I do believe he's going to show it on the night and stop Josh Kelly. It'll be mid to late stoppage, I think.
Yeah, we really look forward to that fight. So if we just move away from Feb 20th, and you know, we look forward to that with huge excitement. But as we said in the intro, that you do manage and train a number of top fighters. I was just wanted to touch on a couple, you know, the likes you mentioned, Sam Bowen. He's been out of the ring since 2019. I was wondering if there's any updates with Sam, and you know, is there any fight news in the pipeline? Is there any plans with Sam Bowen moving into 2021?
Yeah, I mean, he was very dejected after he lost to Kakache. He proved that he's got to move up to lightweight, even though it was a very, very close fight, lost on a split decision. It was not the Sam Bowen that I've seen and know. So he's going to move up to lightweight. Funny enough, we've not really had no interest in him. No one's come to us. I mean, I've not had one offer from Frank Warren for Sam to fight at lightweight, which is terrible, really. Sam's had a bit of time out. He started back training last week, actually, with me. I'd not seen him for nearly a year. Not saying that, and that's just with me personally. He lives an hour and a half away from me, so obviously we're having no interest in boxing at the moment unless the right offer come up. He was just training at home. He's got his own garage set up. I mean, he's sponsored by Ringside. They supplied him, kicked him out of a lovely load of equipment for his garage at home, and he's a fitness fanatic, Sam. So I was never worried about that. But no, he's back boxing now. I think he's got that hunger back. He's had a little break. I mean, he was boxing since 10 years old. I think he's 28 now. So that rest would have done him good as well. But no, I really do believe at lightweight he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. I mean, Kakachi was saying it was the hardest fight he's ever had, and it's the hardest he's ever been here. But let me tell you, I mean, if it was a strong Sam Bowen on that night, he would have really felt the force, because it was a weight drain, Sam. And but full respect to Kakachi, he did what he had to do and got the win.
You know, it's a really exciting prospect at the thought of Sam going up to lightweight. You know, obviously on the world scene, it's a stacked division with the likes of Joanta Davis and Teofimo Lopez and others, Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, of course. But then domestically, you know, Luke Campbell may be top of the pile, but you got James Tennyson and Gavin Gwynn and Joe Cordina there or thereabouts. There's a lot of top names, and I think it'd be a really exciting addition to the lightweight division domestically, and obviously then he'll look to move on. But certainly I think it's exciting of Sam Bowen joining in at the 135-pound division.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look at what Max Hughes has gone on to do at lightweight.
Yep.
And Sam walked through him in 7 rounds to defend to win the British title at super featherweight. So obviously moving Sam up to lightweight will be the right thing to do. I think he beats all the domestic level fighters at lightweight. I really do. I mean, he's not the most skilled and what have you, but he's such a strong fighter, and it's so hard to the body. He can walk through kids. But yeah, I'm really excited of the prospect of him moving up to lightweight, and let's just get him out and showcase him.
Absolutely. You know, you only have to look at somebody like, we've already mentioned James Tennyson. You know, he moved up and he got beat for a world title at 130 pounds against Tevin Farmer, but he's moved up and he's been a bit of a revelation at 135 pounds. He's picked up some good wins. He's looked, you know, strong, and his punch power has carried up. And like you say, Sam Bowen, you know, people might say he's not the most technically sound boxer, but he's very strong. He hits very hard. And if he carries that up, very similar to James Tennyson, I think that personally would be a great...
That would be some... Imagine Tennyson and Bowen. What a fight that would be. I mean, they won't risk putting Tennyson in with Bowen, mate. I can assure you. It's a good fight, that is. But obviously Tennyson's vacated the British to move on to the world scene, and obviously you've got Liam Walsh, and who's he defending? Oh, Ireland, isn't it? So
yeah.
Sam could box the winner of them. But I mean, on hindsight, hindsight is a wonderful thing. Sam was ranked high in the WBO. I think he was number 7 at the time. We could have probably vacated the British and pushed on for down the WBO route. But I mean, I really believed he could beat Kakachi, but the weight finally caught with him, and then Kakachi did what he had to do. So moving up to lightweight's a good thing, but there's some massive fights out there if we can get them made.
Absolutely, we look forward to that. And looking at, you know, the rest of the stable, like we say, you train and manage as well, and the likes of Dex Spellman. Is there any news on Deck and any other members of the stable? Any fight news pending?
Yeah, Dex, he just got back in the gym. He's put quite a bit of weight on, actually, so we need to get his weight down and get him a bit of notice. We had a little bit of a time out. He had 2 hard fights back-to-back, Lyndon Arthur and Anthony Yard. Very, very tough fights. We took them both at short notice because there was nothing happening. That was when, obviously, behind closed doors, both good money, big opportunities for him. He took them, but it wasn't to be. He's had a little bit of time out. He's going to come back refreshed, and hopefully we'll get a date or something to go on in April, May time. But I mean, it'll always be a tough fight. Why you're the away fighter until his crowd's back? So I mean, Dex at the stage where he can take these fights behind closed doors. But I've got an heap of fighters, that prospects that's coming through, that I can't really put out yet because I want to build them up myself. I mean, Brad Dawes, he's fighting in Dubai, but I've just heard that show's off now. Next Friday, he was fighting Mark McKeown. They put restrictions on flights out to Dubai, so that looks like it's off. They're going to move the show over here, I think. Right. So Brad Dawes is going to be fighting Mark McKeown. And I've took a couple of jobs from a journeyman type men on a few of the TV shows. Andreas Villu's fighting, I think, on a Frank Warren show. You've got Chris Pilkington. Just took a job for Jamie Stewart that I promote. So there's a few things knocking about, but nothing in the home corner, mate. On these shows, it's tough. Until I can promote myself, these lads won't be fighting in the home corner, which is such a shame, because that's the way I want to bring them through.
Absolutely, and it's something that I was going to touch on to close is, of course, you do your small hall promoting, and that is non-existent at the minute, unfortunately. And there's been a lack of funding from the government with their packages when they've donated, give money to sports to survive, and boxing wasn't on the list. And as a small hall promoter, as you know, and boxing fans know very well, these shows are pretty much purely funded by ticket sales. And if there's no fans, there's no ticket sales, there's no money. Take us through the thought process over what's been almost 12 months now as a small hall promoter. The worries, the frustrations, your fighters asking for dates, and you've got to, figure out what you're doing, and your fighters are struggling for money, and this, that, and the other, and trying to stay active. There's a million and different things going on at the minute, and it's a very difficult time. Take us through how you've experienced it throughout the current pandemic, Carl.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, small hall promoting's been obviously a no-go. Without no crowds, as you say, we rely on the gate to fund the shows. It's just impossible without TV deal to promote. I mean, you're probably going to be chucking 40, 50 grand at a show with the testing and everything. And obviously, with nothing coming in, it's just impossible. Which obviously the fighters understand that, but it's heartbreaking really, because I've got some really, really good prospects. I mean, I'm at that transition period really where I'm starting to bring kids through again. I mean, you have stages in boxing. You get kids to championship level. You know what I mean? Once they've been beat, you start taking jobs. You know what I mean? Just for the sake of it, really, just to keep them busy and active. They want to keep fighting, but they're always tough jobs. I mean, obviously bringing fighters through is what I'm renowned for doing. I've been promoting since 2007. I've done 147 shows. I brought numerous champions through on my shows to championship level, and yeah, it's sad really. A lot of them's on at me saying, when will I be out? When will I be out? And my last show was March the 14th. Mm-hmm. So I've heard we're looking at September minimum now. Right. So it's going to be 18 months by time some of them box. I mean, even before that, a few of them had not been out on the March show. It was December. Yeah. So it's a long, long time for these fights. 18 months, getting on for 2 years, and I'm just hoping we don't lose any of them. At the minute, I've not been told any of my fighters have packed up. They all seem like they're chomping at the bit again. But it's like you say, it's sad times. I mean, listen, not just for boxing, the whole world. I mean, how bad has it got? You know what I mean? We thought we'd be well out of it now, and it's still going on, and we're getting more cases every day, more deaths, and it's heartbreaking. I put a little thing on Facebook last night saying how heartbreaking it is for everybody that's losing family members. I mean, we're all on about boxing and keeping the sport going, but there's bigger things happening in the world. I mean, it's terrible.
It is. It's such a difficult time, and our thoughts are with everyone that's struggling at the minute. But Carl, just to finish with, and I kick myself if I didn't ask. I can notice that you've got quite a lot of signed memorabilia behind you there. Is there any hidden gems there? What's your favourite signed glove that you've got there with the collection? It's quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a piece from Muhammad Ali there. I've always wanted a games room with all memorabilia up, to be honest. So. Yeah, I've always wanted my own little room, and I finally got it. I got an extension built on the house, and got some lovely bits. I've got David Avanesyan's world title belt.
Amazing.
A replica when he won the interim title. So that's the full version. That's a WBA regular title. I've got pieces all over, Mike Tyson, gloves signed by numerous people. So, yeah, really proud of my little room, mate. Yeah, I love it.
I've got quite a collection myself, but unfortunately, at the minute, they're kind of bagged up. I've got them in the spare room. There's nowhere really for them, but I need to get some sort of setup like that, Carl. I need to take motivation from that and inspiration from that and get a room set up, I think.
Yeah, one thing I always wanted to do, I mean, obviously, I've got enough land at my property where I could build an extension, unfortunately, but I always wanted my own little man cave with my memorabilia and that from years ago, and something I worked hard to get, and I've got a lot of money's worth in here, and I'm really, really proud of this little room. My little man's cave.
That's it. I'm jealous, but Carl, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for your time today. We look forward to
top man.
You know, we hope, with fingers crossed, that small hall boxing can return and you can get back to your day-to-day job. But thanks for your time. Best of luck for Feb 20th, and we'll surely catch up again in the future.
You're a diamond. Thank you, Luke. Top man.